thinking about the fear of the ASEAN Economic Community. There was a movement to consolidate the assets of state-owned banks in order to prepare themselves to buff against greater competition, to be able to face up to their ASEAN rivals. The Vice President Yusuf Kala has just dismissed that, saying that they won't be, that they'll be going it alone. Do you see any Indonesian banks have something that they can sell to the outside Indonesia immediately?
Well, first of all, I think we have to recognize that banking is a very local business. The local banks have an enormous advantage because they know the customers, they have usually the trust of the customers, they have a broad network that covers the whole country. And so I think the fear that people from the outside will come in and take away customers and business, I think is overblown. I think when you look at most countries around the world, I think the domestic banks really dominate the business. And the foreigners who have made inroads, big inroads or significant inroads, are more the exception than the rule. That's why I think the worry that suddenly the MNCs are coming in or other banks, big banks coming in and blowing us out of the market, I think is usually, I would say, unrealistic.
Well, are there sectors that you would say it is somewhat realistic that there will be a big shake-up that they aren't efficient enough? Do you think there's any that could actually have the local industry lose out? Are there instances in other economic agreements where some countries' industries have lost out?
Well, I think you've seen a number of countries, for example, in the UK, where the automotive industry is essentially dominated by international players, and there is no local industry left. But there are quite actually a lot of local British factories and also research centers and great brands from the UK, even though they are now owned by foreign companies that really are strong players in the market. So I think the question is, what does it really mean, foreign players taking over? Are they wiping out the industry? Is nothing left here? Or are they taking over companies, making them much more productive, and maybe dominating the market and maybe even exporting so that lots of local people get jobs? So I think one needs to really think about what is the threat. Yeah? What are you afraid of? Is somebody wiping something completely out? Or you're getting people who are taking over local companies and making them stronger, better employers, larger employers, much more productive, and also even big exporters. I think that is something that one has to take into consideration before making big statements about the dangers of being wiped out.
Do you think Indonesia will benefit from transfer of talent from within ASEAN?
I think everybody benefits from transfer of talent. I think when you look to Europe, North America, I think they have been benefited enormously from people coming from Asia. The Indians, the Chinese who are really building big business in Silicon Valley. I think it has been enormous benefit. So they have not replaced people. They have really enlarged the scope of companies, of entrepreneurship in the US. And I think that is also what could very well happen in Indonesia. I think the more you worry about, we need to defend ourselves, we will be replaced. I think the more you lose out on this enormous influx of talent, of entrepreneurship, of initiative. And I think one needs to be much more open and much more willing to embrace the influx because it really also strengthens the local economy.
What do you think can be done domestically to help people embrace it at the ground level?
I think the most important thing, of course, is experience. I mean, we talked about trust. Mm-hmm. Trust does not come because I make a big statement. I make big declarations. I think trust comes from really having the experience. When you find that foreign companies are bringing people to build businesses here, they employ lots of Indonesians, they will also train them, they will make them stronger, some of them may even then build their own business and so forth. People sense that they have benefited from that, and I think that is ultimately what is needed. The experience, and I think we see this everywhere in the world. The more people interact with foreigners, yeah, the more I think they see the benefits. Those who have no interaction, who have no experience, are the most averse. And that's why I think in order to overcome the aversion, I think it is important to create as many interaction and as many experience as possible.
Would you consider Indonesia somewhat closed?
Well, I think you know, there have been messages here and there about language, about visa and so forth, but I think ultimately the government really wants to get things done. I think the message also from the minister this morning has been very positive and very well received. I think we will see Indonesia also opening up and Indonesia benefiting a lot, no matter what any analysis by any institution has been saying.
And just to touch on it quickly, the slowdown in the Chinese economy, do you think that that's going to impact the integration? Or do you think that it will force other industries to come to the fore as opposed to export resources?
Well, I think clearly the commodities have been dominating quite a number of economies and the export of commodities to China. But I think what we've also seen is quite a number of industries have moved from China, or part of the production, to Vietnam, to Indonesia, to Thailand, now also to Myanmar, Bangladesh and so forth. And I think that's a very positive development. As China continues to develop and moving up the value chain, I think other entities will move, or some entities will move to Southeast Asia and expand there. But I think we should also see Southeast Asia being part of a large Asian ecosystem, yeah, where lots of suppliers really interact with each other and depend on each other. And the more that is happening, the more everybody will benefit. Now, the commodities are only one part, and I think ideally you would like Southeast Asia and especially also Indonesia to overcome that and to be a much more important part of the supply chain beyond commodities. And I think it's happening. It's happening in automotive, it's happening in motorcycles, and happening in a number of industries already, consumer goods. And I think there is a lot more opportunity for that, given that also there's a very large domestic market. But I think the key issue is, let's build it. Let's try to move forward rather than take a wait and see attitude and try to protect of what you have, because no matter what you do, the others will move on.
What about digital infrastructure? Indonesia has a massively young population, telecommunications is expanding, more smartphones are expanding. We'll bring it back to it when we come back, but do you see Indonesia being the leader in that?
Well, I'm not sure whether it's a leader yet, but I think it has the opportunity because Indonesia has 17,000 islands. So I think mobile telephony is a massive lever for bringing education, health, a lot of information, a lot of services to those different islands and really move Indonesia to a completely new level. And because of necessity, I think Indonesia can benefit enormously from that.
Well, let me hold you there. We will revisit that in just a minute when we come back on Berita Satu. I'm at the World Economic Forum here in Jakarta.